Hello.
Good morning.
Good-
Morning to everybody. This is FCA Sunday TEE breakfast session. Dr. Manjunath will be moderating the session. Dr. Manjunath, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning,
Please
sir. Good
take over.
morning.
Yes.
Yeah, please, please. Good morning, Abhijit. I
Yeah, good morning, sir.
I welcome you to the part of the FCA program. Uh, as a part of the continuation of the intraoperative transesophageal echocardiography in coronary artery bypass, Abhijit is going to speak on left ventricular regional and diastolic dysfunction of the heart. Please, Abhijit.
Yeah, sir, thank you, sir,
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
kind
yeah,
introduction. I'll just
yeah.
share
Please,
my
please.
slides and I'll start, sir.
Yeah, please, you can.
Okay, sir. So my slides are visible, sir.
Yeah, it's visible. Yeah.
Okay. Going to full mode and okay. So good morning. We will discuss in this part the assessment of regional function of the LV and the diastolic function of the LV during CABG. So before going into the details, I'll just briefly tell you about the coronary blood supply. There are two coronary arteries, left main and the right coronary artery. The left main divides into left anterior descending and the circumflex, and right goes into the right side of the atrioventricular groove, and then it descends down as a posterior descending artery, and it gives a acute marginal branch. It supplies all the nodal nodes of the heart, while left main divides into the left circumflex and LAD runs into the anterior interventricular groove and supplies the septal branches and the diagonal branches, while circumflex supplies the obtuse marginal branches. If the system is most commonly it is a right dominant system where the RCA gives the posterior descending artery. In some patients like 35 to 40% patient, the left descends as a left descend the posterior descending artery called as a left dominant circulation. Sometimes both arteries run parallel to each other into the posterior interventricular groove. It's called as a co-dominant circulation, which is seen in 5% of the patient. This dominance is important to know exactly the regional wall motion abnormalities, culprit vessels. That's why the anatomy and the angiography is very important before you go ahead for the CABG. So just have a look at the angio of the patient before you are proceeding to the surgery and doing a TE. So the commonly used model for the TE and TT assessment for the regional wall function is 17 segment LV model. There is little difference between the transthoracic imaging and the transesophageal imaging. The transthoracic imaging starts with the basal anterior segment as a segment 1, while the transesophageal echocardiography starts with the basal anteroseptal as a 1, and it goes basal anterior, basal anterolateral, basal inferolateral, basal inferior, and basal inferoseptal, and then the mid, and then the apical, and then there's a apical cap. uh, when you see the four chamber view in transesophageal echo, the image which is on the wall, which the LV wall which is on your right side, right hand, it has a lateral wall, while on the left hand it is a septal wall of the LV. And in a two chamber view at 90 degrees, the LV wall which is on your right hand side is anterior wall, and on the left hand side it is a posterior wall. While in midesophageal long axis view, the wall which is on your right side, right hand, is anteroseptal wall, and on the left hand it is a posterior wall. In transgastric basal short axis, as the probe is being posterior to the LV, the in the near field of the sector image, the wall is an inferior wall, and the far field has an anterior wall, while on the right hand of the observer is a lateral wall, and on the left hand it is a septal wall. Sometimes the uh, some echocardiographers, they call it as a posterior wall, or for simplicity we can call it as a posterolateral, or inferolateral and inferior. This is a 17 segment. It starts with the basal anteroseptal, and it goes on with the basal anterior, basal anterolateral, basal infrolateral, basal inferior, basal inferoseptal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then comes the mid segment from 7, mid anteroseptal, mid anterior, mid anterolateral, mid inferolateral, mid inferior, mid inferoseptal. Then comes the apico anterior, apico apicolateral, apico inferior or apico posterior, and apicoseptal, and then there is a apex. So this is how the nomenclature of the segment goes in the TEE. Now coming to the regional wall function, it is basically eyeballing, so it is a very subjective measurement. To avoid inter-observer bias, we should assess it only by the one echocardiographer pre and post CABG or as a together. The scoring goes like there is no, if there is no regional wall motion abnormality in the segment of interest, it is a normal. Reduced endocardial excursions and wall thickening in the segment of interest is hypokinetic. Absent endocardial excursions and thickening in the area of interest, akinetic. Systolic bulging with no thickening of the LV segment of interest, dyskinetic. Wall motion score index is a total score of the segments and divided it by the total number of segment assessed. So regional wall, the importance of regional wall motion score is regional wall motion score and the score index are good echocardiographic tool to measure effect of myocardial revascularization or regional LV function. It is seen that after myocardial revascularization, there is an improvement in the wall motion score, especially in inferior and inferolateral territories than the anteroseptal and anterior territories, provided there is a viable muscle mass. The wall motion scoring is given in this chart. Wall motion 1 is normal, endocardial motion is present, that is normal, and systolic wall thickening is usually more than 30%. When there is a reduced systolic wall thickening by 30% or less, then it becomes hypokinesis. For akinesis, there is actually no systolic thickening and there is absent endocardial motion. In dyskinesis, there is outward endocardial motion and there is a thinning of the systolic. During the systole, there is a thinning of the myocardium. Aneurysmal, there is a diastolic deformity and absent or thinning of the systolic wall thickening. Akinetic with scar, dyskinetic with scar can also be labeled as 1, 2, 6 and 7. So this is actual regional wall motion scoring, but what practically we use is this particular thing. And wall motion score index is given by total wall motion score segment divided by number of segment assessed. The distribution of the coronary blood flow and TE views. So in 4-chamber view, we can see the LAD supplies the apical part of the septum and the apex, and plus or minus apicolateral wall. In 2-chamber view, whole anterior wall is seen supplied by the LAD, and in the midesophageal long axis view, the basal anteroseptum, mid anteroseptum, and apicoanteroseptum is supplied by the LAD. While in 4-chamber view, the basal septal and mid septal is supplied by the RCA, and whole of the RV is supplied by the RCA. In 2-chamber view, the posterior, basal posterior, and that is basal inferior, and the mid inferior is supplied by the RCA here. In long axis view, whatever RV segment is seen, it is supplied by RCA. In transgastric mid short axis view, the mid anteroseptal and mid anterior is supplied by LAD. Mid anterolateral and inferolateral are supplied by the circumflex. The mid inferolateral can also be supplied by RCA also. Mid inferior, mid inferoseptal are supplied by RCA. Coming to the regional wall motion assessment. So in this 4-chamber view, if we can see the apex and the apical septum is having a regional wall motion score which is almost a akinetic segment, and when you go to the 2-chamber view, you see the anterior, mid anterior and apicoanterior segments are having the regional wall motion score which is almost akinetic. So this shows the distribution of the LAD area. So this patient is probably having a LAD territory infarct. This it is depicted in this animation here. This is LAD and this whole thing is LAD. So you can see this whole area is almost akinetic and the area here is also akinetic. So the same patient, when we are seeing the midesophageal long axis view and the transgastric basal short axis view, you can see the distribution of the LAD from the basal anteroseptum, basal mid anteroseptum and apico-anterior apico-septal segment. All segments are having akinesis here. And in the basal transgastric basal short axis view, we can see the basal anteroseptum and basal anterior are akinetic and little scarred also. So this is the same patient having a LAD territory infarct in the depicted in midesophageal long axis and basal short axis view, transgastric basal short axis. Transgastric mid short axis view shows the mid anteroseptal, mid anterior, and the apical view shows apico-septal, apico-anterior segments having akinesia. So this is a patient of the LAD territory infarct. Thus, we can localize the coronary artery responsible. This looks like the patient is suffered from the LAD infarct, and this is the regional wall motion in all the TE views shown one by one. So compiling all the images with the and comparing with the normal LV function patient, which is not having any infarction or normal coronaries, you can see the comparison of the 4-chamber view, the 2-chamber view and the long axis view. Here there is a LAD territory infarct and showing the regional wall motion abnormality, and here is the normal LV function or no regional wall motion patient. So you can judge the difference yourself. Is the same patient having a transgastric basal short axis, mid short axis and apical short axis compared with the normal LV function patient. So if we calculate all the regional wall motions, the score becomes 26 because most of the anterior segments are LAD territory segments are infarcted. We gave 3 score for all that segments, and if we calculate all the segments, it becomes 26. And if we divide it by 17, the regional wall motion score index becomes 1.54. And for this normal patient, the regional wall motion score is 1. So this regional wall motion score index helps you by how much percent or how much improvement of the segment or the area of interest is there after post grafting. That means post CABG. The regional wall motion score index should reduce by almost 1 to say that there is an improved LV function after the grafting. So coming to the diastolic function of the heart. For the diastolic function, we should know the cardiac cycle in details. You know, there is a systole and a diastole, and the total time is 0.8 seconds. Of that, 0.5 seconds is a diastole. In diastole, there are 4 phases: isometric relaxation, then there is a rapid inflow, then there is a diastasis, and then there is an active atrial contraction called as atrial systole. So these 4 phases of the diastole one should know. The isometric relaxation starts when there is a closed mitral valve and closed aortic valve. The ventricle relaxes, keeping the volume constant. Because of that, there is a mitral opening and there is a rapid inflow, and then the flow continues till the pressure equalizes, and then the LV requires the active atrial contraction to overcome that pressure and get the blood completely in, and then the systole will occur after the isometric contraction. So isometric relaxation is basically a ventricular relaxation. Early rapid filling is a systolic function. Diastasis is a compliance of the LV. Atrial systole is atrial contraction, late filling phase. Diastolic dysfunction may lead to hemodynamic instability and the heart failure symptom. That's why it is important to assess this. The definition of the heart failure with preserved ejection fraction or a diastolic dysfunction goes as presence of symptoms consistent with heart failure like NYHA class 2 dyspnea, class 3 dyspnea, and LVEF of more than equal to 50%, end diastolic volumes less than 97 ml per meter square with presence of LV diastolic dysfunction. That means mean E prime TDI of less than 9 centimeters per second, E by E prime of more than 13, and left atrial volume index of more than 34 ml per meter square. And then comes the body mass index and BNP levels, which are included in the criteria, which is not a echocardiographic measure. So basically here in the mitral inflow of this image, we are showing the diastolic phases. That is a ventricular relaxation, then there is a diastasis, and there is a atrial contraction, and the time between the active ejection and the start of the E prime velocity, there is a isovolumetric relaxation time. So assessment of the diastolic function is done by four important modalities: transmitral inflow Doppler velocities by putting pulse wave Doppler across the mitral inflow at the tips of the mitral leaflets, then tissue Doppler imaging of the medial and the lateral mitral annulus, then pulmonary venous Doppler, then color M mode flow propagation velocity across the mitral valve inflow, and sometimes LA volume index and LV mass index can also be calculated. We will go one by one. This is a transmitral inflow velocity. It is done in pulse wave Doppler is kept with the sample volume of 1 to 3 millimeters at the tips of the mitral leaflets in mid-superficial 4-chamber view or long axis view commonly. Mitral diastolic inflow velocities are considered for diastolic assessment. Early diastolic wave is produced by ventricular relaxation and it's called as E wave, and late diastolic filling wave by atrial contraction is produced is called as A wave. Parameters like E wave deceleration time, E by A ratio, A wave duration is considered for the assessment of the diastolic dysfunction. It is a load dependent measure, so affected severely by the tachycardia. So here there is a 4-chamber view of the mid-superficial 4-chamber view, and we have put a pulse wave Doppler across the tips of the mitral leaflet in the mitral inflow, and we get a pattern like E and A. So there is a E wave, there is A wave, and this is a mitral wall E wave deceleration time. The normal diastolic function is the E wave velocity is usually 1 meters per second. E wave deceleration time is 160 to 200 milliseconds. E by A ratio is 0.75 to 1.5, and A wave duration is more than the pulmonary AR dur, and difference is not more than 30 milliseconds. So in this Doppler image, we are seeing the peak E wave velocity as 73, peak A wave velocity as 69.2. Mitral wall deceleration time is 156 milliseconds, which is as normal, as equal, as near as 160 milliseconds. So this consists a normal diastolic function. The E by A ratio is 1.1. Coming to type 1 diastolic dysfunction, that is the impaired relaxation. In impaired relaxation, what happens? Because of the increased LV-EDP, mild increase in LV-EDP, the E wave deceleration takes little time. So the E wave deceleration time is more than 200 milliseconds, while E wave velocity is less than 0.75 meters per second. E by A ratio is usually less than 0.75, and E wave duration and pulmonary AR dur is again difference is not more than 30 milliseconds. If we consider lateral E by E prime, it is less than 8. So in this image, pulse wave Doppler of mitral inflow, peak E wave velocity is 50, while peak A wave velocity is 68.5, and E by A ratio is 0.7, while deceleration time is 235 milliseconds. So all fits in this criteria of mitral inflow. It becomes a type 1 diastolic dysfunction, that is impaired relaxation. Type 2 diastolic dysfunction is also called as pseudonormalization, where E wave velocity resembles as that of a normal 1 meters per second. E wave deceleration time is again between 160 to 200. E by A ratio is 0.75 to 1.5. The parameters of mitral inflow are all as equal to that of the normal diastolic function. So we have to opt the other methods to differentiate it from the real diastolic dysfunction than the pseudo diastolic dysfunction. So in that, what we do is, if we see the A wave duration, it is less than the pulmonary AR dur, and difference is usually more than 30 milliseconds. If we consider lateral E by E prime, it becomes more than 8 and less than 12. And if we do the flow propagation velocity, which are the other methods of diastolic dysfunction assessment, the flow propagation reduces. The Valsalva maneuvers unmask the diastolic dysfunction. Pseudo-normal patterns becomes impaired relaxation, and the change in E by A is more than 0.5. So in this patient, if we can see before Valsalva, it looks like almost like a normal pattern. The deceleration time is normal, the E and A ratio is normal, but when we provide a Valsalva here, it changes to the impaired relaxation. If it would have been a normal pattern, then it would not have been changed. So here you can see the E by A ratio has become 0.7. The E wave deceleration time has become 235. So after applying Valsalva, there is a change from pseudo normalization to a impaired relaxation. Coming to type 3 diastolic dysfunction, it is a restrictive filling. Here velocities are high. E wave velocity is 1 meters per second. E wave deceleration time is reduced to less than 140. The E wave deceleration happens very fast, and E by A ratio is usually 2 and more than 2. The A wave duration is less than the pulmonary AR due, and difference is more than 30 milliseconds. Lateral E by E prime is more than 13, while VP is reduced further. So VP is in the range of 25 or so. Change in E by A with Valsalva is usually very less. So it is also divided into fixed and reversible pattern, but the differentiation doesn't make too much sense because the treatment remains the same. So coming to the tissue Doppler imaging for diastolic dysfunction, TDI is relatively independent of loading conditions than the mitral inflow. So TDI is of the medial mitral annulus is preferred, which has a good correlation with the mean LV filling pressures and technically easy to align the beam parallel to the motion of the annulus. Peak early diastolic velocity, that is E prime, is considered for the assessment of diastolic dysfunction, and it is a load independent. Normal peak E prime velocity is more than 8 centimeters per second. E prime velocity reduces in all forms of diastolic dysfunction, that is less than 8 centimeters per second. But there are some drawbacks. We cannot use this particular method for the annular calcifications and in case of post-mitral annuloplasty or mitral valve replacement. Severe regional valve motion in a basal septum may also lead to tethering of the annulus and causing the underestimation of E prime and overzealous grading of the diastolic dysfunction. So this is a midesophageal 4-chamber view, little modification to get the Doppler alignment parallel to the septal annulus, mitral annulus, that is medial annulus. So this is a septal TDI, where this is a E prime velocity, this is A prime velocity, and this is a S velocity. Or so the medial E prime is 8.13, which shows a normal diastolic function. The same patient's mitral inflow is showing E by A ratio of 1.1 and the deceleration type of 156. So this is a normal diastolic function. Now this is a case of diastolic dysfunction where the heart is dilated. You can see it is obvious that there is a restriction for the filling, and this is a septal TDI where the medial E prime velocity is 6.59, which is less than 8 centimeters per second. And this is the same patient's pulse wave Doppler across the mitral valve. It shows a normal pattern with E by A of 1.3. So this normal we have to rule out, because here the same patient's TDI is showing there is a diastolic dysfunction, and the same patient's mitral inflow velocity is showing it is a normal pattern. So this can be a pseudo normal pattern. If we see the deceleration time here, it is a 70 milliseconds, which is far less than 140 milliseconds. So that shows that this is a sure shot case of a diastolic dysfunction. Assessment of diastolic function with pulmonary venous Doppler. Pulmonary venous flow is evaluated by pulse wave Doppler from midesophageal 2-chamber view at 90 degrees while pacing the sample volume 1 to 3 millimeter sample volume 1 to 2 centimeter inside the left superior pulmonary vein. It is recommended that the signal gain and filter settings should be kept at the minimum level, that is 100 to 200 megahertz. Peak S wave is measured at early systole, D wave is early diastole, and peak AR, that is a reversal of A, is in the late diastole. So S by D ratio and AR, that is A reversal duration minus A duration, time difference between the A reversal duration and the mitral A wave duration is measured for the diastolic dysfunction. A reversal velocity, duration, and AR minus A duration increases when LVDP is high. Higher S by D ratio velocities are observed in impaired relaxation, and lower S by D ratio is found with the restriction and abnormal filling. So this is how the pulmonary venous Doppler is done. This is obtained at 71 degrees, usually 70 to 90 is the range. This is a very parallel alignment of the left superior pulmonary vein with the pulse wave Doppler, and the pulse wave sample of 1 to 3 millimeters is kept 1 to 2 centimeter inside the pulmonary vein, and we get a nice S, D and AR waves. And this is the AR duration which is measured, and this is the S and D wave which are the velocities are measured. In this image, we have a pulmonary systolic velocity of 54, diastolic of 41, and pulmonary AR velocity is 26, and reversal AR reversal duration is 156 milliseconds. Pulmonary S by D is 1.3. So this is a normal. This is a normal diastolic function pattern. What happens here? This is a patient with abnormal diastolic function. You can see here S wave is depressed, D wave is elevated, and AR velocity is increased, and AR duration also is increased. So this goes in favor of LV diastolic dysfunction. The pulmonary S by D ratio has been reduced to 0.7. So the important thing here is we have to calculate this particular thing. If AR duration minus A wave duration in mitral inflow, if it is less than 30 milliseconds, it is usually a normal pattern. If the ratio, this difference is increases, that is more than 30 milliseconds, it becomes a diastolic dysfunction. Here in the first image, you can see there is a E by A is 1.3, E wave deceleration type is 78, and the same patient's AR dur minus A dur is 38, that is more than 30 milliseconds. So this goes in favor of a diastolic dysfunction. Coming to the flow propagation velocity. The flow propagation velocities are achieved by putting a M mode, color M mode across the mitral inflow, and the color sector is selected from the LA, that means the near field to far field up to the apex. And this color sector is then interrogated with color M mode. And the slope of the Doppler, that is VP, as it moves from the annulus to the apex, that reflects the rate of LV relaxation. We have to adjust the Nyquist limit to get a proper slope of the VP in the red, and then the slope of aliasing during the early rapid filling phase is measured, that is E wave slope is measured. Normal VP is more than 45 centimeters per second, and the wave of relaxation moves from apex towards the base. The VP slope decreases, that means it becomes more flatter as the LV relaxation is hampered in the diastolic dysfunction. VP, like E prime, correlates well with LV relaxation inversely, and LV filling pressures can also be estimated by E by VP ratio. That is the indirect method of estimation of the LV pressures. How it is to be done, we will see in the later phase of the slides. E by VP normal ratio is 1.5. If E by VP ratio is more than 2.5, it suggests VCW of more than 15 millimeters of mercury. Often, E by VP ratio is not accurate in LVH. So in LVH, we may not have an accurate estimation of the LV filling pressures because the LV cavity is very small. So this is in first image, there is a case 1 where the VP flow propagation velocity slope is 17.4 centimeters per second. So it is measured like 2 points. We have to put first point on the mitral annulus level at the E wave deceleration, and then the second point after 4 meters per second velocity. So difference we have to calculate. Suppose this is the 2.5 here, then we have to put a cursor on the second cursor on the 6.5 meters per second velocity. So this particular slope is adjusted to the slope of that particular wave, the early diastolic wave, and it gives you a VP, that is a flow propagation slope. So here the slope is 22.7, where in the second case the slope is 44.8. So this is a normal LV diastolic function where it is more straighter, and this is a diastolic dysfunction where it is a little becoming more flatter and flatter. As the diastolic dysfunction progresses, as the VP comes down below 45, the progressive diastolic dysfunction will flatten the VP according to the grade of diastolic dysfunction. So in this image, we have calculated E by VP. For this patient, E is 76.7 and VP is 22 by 7. 0.7. The ratio comes as 3.37, which is more than 2.5. So it is a roughly this patient's PCWP is more than 15 millimeters of mercury. While in this, the second patient, the case 2, which is a normal diastolic function, the ratio is 1.63, and so PCWP will be less than 15. And if we compare it with 2 ratio of 2, it becomes around 8 to 10 millimeters of mercury. Coming to the LA atrial volume measurement, left atrial volume measurement. Left atrial volume measurement can be done by Simpson's biplane method, where we have to take 2 frames, midesophageal 4-chamber view in systole and midesophageal 2-chamber view in systole. We plot a Simpson's biplane area, and if we put a volume cursor 2 times, if we press cursor 2 times, it converts into a volume. Here in LA midesophageal 4-chamber view in systole, we have a LA atrial volume of 47.9, and indexed atrial volume is what is important for the calculation. The normal ranges are shown here. In normal, hello. The normal LA volume indexed with body surface area is 16 to 34. In the LV diastolic dysfunction, the volume becomes more than 34 ml per meter square body surface area. Here in the first image, there is a normal LA volume index of 29.56. While I have kept one more patient with mitral stenosis here. Basically, mitral stenosis with triple vessel disease coming for CABG. This patient has LA volume index of 54.88. So there is an increased volume in the of the LA, or there is a dysfunction, diastolic dysfunction. Coming to the last measurement, that is LV mass. LV mass can be calculated in the transgastric mid-short axis view. Here the assumption is the left ventricular mass is equal to 1.05 into total volume of the LV divided minus the cavity volume of the LV. So if we calculate it by area length method, the 2 areas and volumes are calculated by area length, and LV mass can be calculated according to both the areas. So here the LV area, LV mass is 154 grams. These are the normal ranges of the LV mass. This mass calculation is very tedious and nobody usually performs during the routine TE, but I have just kept it as a reference how to calculate it. So coming to the practical approach of the diastolic dysfunction, when you are assessing by transesophageal echo, just see the septal E prime, lateral E prime, and LA volume. If septal E prime is more than 8, lateral E prime is more than 10, and LA volume of less than 34, it becomes a normal diastolic function. If we have a septal E prime of more than 8, lateral E prime of more than 10, and LA volume of more than 34 ml, it's a normal diastolic function with some athlete's heart or a pericardial constriction. If you have a septal E prime of less than 8, lateral E prime of less than 10, LA volume of more than 34, then you see E by A ratio, that is 0.8, DT is more than 200, average E by E prime of less than 8, A reversal duration minus A duration of less than, that means in the negative range, and Valsalva delta change or change in E by A of less than 0.5, it becomes grade 1 diastolic dysfunction. If E by A is 0.8 to 1.5, DT of 160 to 200, average E by E prime of 9 to 12, that is elevated, and A reversal minus A duration of more than 30 milliseconds, and change in the during the Valsalva in E by A of more than or equal to 0.5, it becomes pseudo normal, that is grade 2. And if E by A ratio is more than equal to 2, DT is less than 160, average E by E prime more than 13, A reversal duration minus A dur is more than 30 milliseconds, and change in Valsalva of E by E prime of 0.5, it becomes grade 3 diastolic dysfunction. So all in all, this is the approach for the diastolic dysfunction. So you have a mitral. In summary, we have 4 grades of diastolic dysfunction. 4 assessments: mitral inflow, pulmonary venous, color M mode propagation, tissue Doppler imaging, and then the LA volume assessment. And these are the patterns which are seen during the echocardiography, and this is a way you should grade the diastolic dysfunction. We have to always remember to differentiate between the pseudo-normal and the normal pattern. So just don't go by only one method, that is mitral inflow. Add the pulmonary venous Doppler, easier methods, color M mode propagation velocities to differentiate between the normal and the pseudo-normal pattern. All in all, diastolic dysfunction is very important in assessment, as sometimes because of the unknown reason LV function is good, but because of the unknown reason patient are not doing well. So you have to consider diastolic dysfunction as a criteria or as a differential diagnosis for the non well behaving patient, and we have to treat the diastolic dysfunction accordingly. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Abhijit, for that excellent presentation of assessment of LV function during CABG and diastolic function assessment. Dr. Manjunath, you want to comment anything? Dr. Manjunath?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Hello?
Ha, sir.
Yeah. Can you able to hear me?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's open for the discussion. Any questions from the audience side?
There is one question. I'll just shoot it. Where is the question box? In case of mitral valve replacement, do we use TDI method on tricuspid annulus? Is the question.
Sir, your voice is not very much audible. Can you increase it, sir?
See, if you do mitral valve replacement, do you do TDI of the tricuspid annulus?
TDI of a tricuspid annulus is for the right ventricular function assessment, sir. Yeah, you can very well go ahead with the TDI of the tricuspid valve, and provided there is no annuloplasty done for the tricuspid valve. In a tricuspid valve annuloplasty, you may have a underestimation of the right ventricular function.
Dr. Sanjeevani, you want to say anything?
But when you do TDI of tricuspid annulus, it is precisely for right ventricular function. It
Yes.
will not tell you about left ventricle, and
Yep.
it is really difficult in mitral valve. So one has to go by IVRT, you know,
Yes,
IVRT,
right.
which is a good
Relaxation.
measure for diastolic dysfunction.
In one slide, I have shown, madam, how to calculate that IVRT.
Another thing, can I ask Dr. Muralidhar?
Yeah.
See, it was a wonderful presentation, and Abhijit always completes it with lots of knowledge and pictures and good images too. Here, but you have not mentioned about strain pattern. Just mention about it for the left ventricular systolic function. That is number one. And left atrial strain for left ventricular diastolic function.
Yeah, madam, left atrial strain for diastolic function should have been mentioned. In systolic function assessment, I have mentioned about the left ventricular strain in the previous lecture.
Okay,
But
sorry.
definitely LA strain, I have not actually into it. I have not done also. I will try to do it henceforth.
And there
How
are
does
many,
it go, madam? Left atrial
no,
strain.
there are many, that is a different topic. It's a big topic by itself. But the thing is that it is coming in a big way.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I also
Yes.
read.
And another thing is there are many cases with left atrial cardiomyopathy,
Left
where
atrial.
patients do have symptoms of diastolic dysfunction. Other parameters may be normal or they are confusing. But when you do LA strain, it will tell you about its, there are 3 functions of LA. It will tell you about all these things.
Yes.
And accordingly, of course, the treatment changes. So that is coming up in a big way.
Okay, madam.
One more thing I wanted to clarify rather. You said that early relaxation is a function of left ventricular relaxation, correct?
Early filling. Yeah.
In a few earlier slides. But
Yes.
next point you said early rapid filling is systolic function, which I didn't understand.
Yeah, ma'am.
back
What
to-
happens?
Go back to that
Basically,
slide.
early.
Abhijit,
Yeah,
can
I'll
you
just.
please show that slide?
Yeah. 1 minute.
It is the diastolic function when you are talking about. You mentioned that
Yeah,
early
it's
rapid
very
filling
much
is
true, sir,
systolic
basically.
function.
I'll just this one.
This one.
This slide. So, sir, the early rapid filling is basically is done by the systole.
Enlarge that. Can you do that screen sharing properly? We are not able to see the slide because I really didn't understand that.
1 second. Now it is.
Not seen in a very small thumbnail. This thing.
1 second, ma'am.
Make it full screen, no? This one.
I'll just. Now is it visible?
No.
Yeah, it is visible. It says early rapid filling is systolic function. What do you mean by that?
Sir, basically what happens, the early rapid filling, that is E wave, is produced by the blood which is coming into the from the LA into the LV is a function of the systole, the previous systole, which has happened. That is basically a physiological thing what is mentioned here.
Then you mentioned about it in bracket, that previous systolic function. That is
Yes.
very important. Yeah.
And madam, we have seen that whenever there is a systolic dysfunction, this early filling decreases.
Yes. So it must be diastolic dysfunction in reduced systolic function.
Yes.
Ischemic hearts and many cardiomyopathies, dilated cardiomyopathies. All these cases, they do show systolic dysfunction as well as diastolic dysfunction.
Yeah, it is like a CV complex of that CVP or LAP. It's like that.
Now I understood. Yes.
But it is confusing. We better remove it because to the diastolic function here, rapid filling. If you put a systolic function, it's confusing whether it's ventricular or atrial.
Yeah.
Actually, this early rapid filling is again a function of difference between the gradient between LA and LV.
But that gradient is created by the previous LV, like previous system. That's why there is a inflow which is unhindered, and then the atrial contraction comes to overcome that particular gradient.
But does it mean that do you mean to say that all these diastolic dysfunction patients having systolic dysfunction also? Is that the thing?
It goes like it is a interdependent process basically. Systole and diastole both are dependent on each other. You can't separate them from one another because the pressure dynamics is such.
Where is the reference for this? Do you have a reference for this?
I'll share, sir. There is one article. Basically, it is a transthoracic echo article. I'll just share that reference to you, sir.
You please share because it's to ordinary thinking individual. It is confusing. I think it should be removed. You should probably say continued ventricular relaxation.
Okay.
Continued ventricular relaxation.
Continued
Once-
ventricular relaxation can also be a better replacement.
That is easy to understand, and putting systolic function, which is has no relevance to diastole, at the on the face of it, if you're going to mention it earlier systolic function, or that also difficult to understand.
Can I ask Dr. Muralidhar?
You can ask, and there are a couple of questions. We'll go to that after your question.
See, in LV systolic function, Abhijit, did you mention last time DP by DT? I was not there. Maybe
Yes,
that
ma'am.
is
Yes.
okay. Sorry.
You want the slide to be shown?
No. It's okay. As long as
it is there, the MR is mandatory for it, and as the slope of that dp by dt, if there is a good LV which is ejecting, the slope is more sharp, and it is above 1200 like that. But as the LV systolic dysfunction happens, the slope becomes more and more flatter. That is the basic thing what is there in the LV dp by dt.
There are four
Rate of
questions.
ventricular
One
pressure
is,
rise.
there are four questions. LA volume index for LV dysfunction T is sometimes difficult to get the LA image properly. Any specific trick to get served?
Sir, a very relevant question. See, when you are doing a mediasophageal 4-chamber view, we retroflex the probe and pull out the probe little, so that you get more of a LA than the LV. That is one trick what we have seen over a period of time. Another thing, ideally the LA volume index usually is done in mediasophageal 4-chamber and 2-chamber view, but in TE, as LA is a very nearer structure, a whole of the LA is not cut, and most of the times in 2-chamber view we get a LA appendage. Now to decrease the errors, only mediasophageal 4-chamber view is taken, and at the for mediasophageal mitral commissural view, where LA is seen as a very good circle, these two views can be preferred. I'm not telling should be preferred, can be preferred, but mediasophageal 4-chamber view alone should be taken for the assessment. And if we pull the probe little by, like say 1 centimeter or so from the retroflexion position in mediasophageal 4-chamber view, you get a good LA. And in that particular frame, you freeze the frame in systole, and then you do the biplane Simpson's biplane method and get the LA volume. So this is a trick which we have learned over a period of time.
How about deep transgastric view?
Hello.
How about the deep transgastric view?
Sir, deep transgastric view, sometimes you get 4-chamber, which is exactly the mirror image of the opposite or the exactly opposite to the mediasophageal 4-chamber view, or it is a like apical 4-chamber view. That will be the best view to get the LA volume.
Okay,
but
next
it's not
question
always
is,
that we get that same view all the patients.
Okay, what is the role of TR velocity measurement for grading?
Sir,
TR velocity measurement for grading.
TR velocity.
Yes, peak TR velocity measurement for grading.
Yeah, that is very important actually, and it is in the guideline of 2016.
Yeah. TR velocity.
TR velocity
more
is
than
very
2.8
important.
meters per second
Okay.
is one of the parameters to be considered.
Yes, sir. See, because of the back pressure changes of the LA, there is a strain on the RV, and if there is a TR, and if you get a peak TR jet velocity, it can be a indirect measure of assessment.
Greater than 2.8 meters per second is a parameter to be considered. Next question is diastolic dysfunction measurement in mitral valve replacement. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
How do you measure diastolic dysfunction in a patient mitral valve replacement done?
Post replacement, sir.
I think so. That is the question it says.
Yeah. I think post replacement we may not get a waveform of mitral inflow as we get in I have tried in 1 or 2 patients. We do get E and A ratios, but I don't know how much relevant it is to the diastolic function. I think importantly we can go with the LA volume assessment. LA volume assessment, if it is more than 34 ml, then definitely the patient is having some sort of diastolic dysfunction, because
No.
usually the LAs are enlarged. Post mitral valve replacement, the LA size becomes smaller and volumes also reduce. So probably going by volumetric analysis of LA can be a better choice. And another color M mode propagation velocity can also be done, but again it becomes a little irrelevant because the mechanical prosthesis is in place. TDI also cannot be done. So LA volume assessment can also be a one choice in such patient.
Can I add something, Dr. Muralidhar?
Yeah, you can.
You can go ahead with TR jet velocity also, I think.
See, Abhijit, in mitral valve replacement, LA doesn't come to normal immediately. It may take 6
No,
months,
not,
1
doesn't
year,
come very normal.
and sometimes it doesn't come. One has to do LA volume reduction surgery sometimes if it is huge.
Yes,
So
yes.
that is not a good parameter. IVRT, as I told you, it is a very good parameter for all these mitral valves.
IVRT where to be done, madam? Means like
IVRT
on
is to be done on you can do it in TDI of you get both the relaxation as well as systole in the same image.
We get in same image, but since there is a annuloplasty or since there is a strut or the valve which is sitting there in the annulus.
Okay. E by E prime is also another good method. But LA volume, especially, I wanted to ask you this question. Where you have shown the picture in LA volume calculation, one is normal and one is with mitral valve.
Yes.
So, if the LA volume is more due to stenosis of the mitral valve, I don't think it can add to analysis of diastolic dysfunction.
Yes.
Parameter
The image is just kept to get that number which is high.
Yes, but
it is to depict the volume. That's all. I know that there is a mitral stenosis, so it is super added to the present diastolic dysfunction. Definitely, it is because of the mitral stenosis in that image.
And it depends on the chronicity of the mitral stenosis. If in early stages, the diastolic function is absolutely normal in those patients.
Yes. Actually, there is no much diastolic dysfunction in mitral valve problems. When there is a LV problem, I think in MR and all, there may be some issue with the
one more important thing to be discussed is how would you grade diastolic dysfunction in atrial fibrillation?
Very nice question.
Because all these patients ultimately with a big LA, they do have atrial fibrillation. It's an important cause for AF.
Yes.
Hypertrophied ventricles,
because the atrial contribution is not there, the A wave parameters will not be applicable. For example, E by A, there's no A wave there. So you have to go by IVRT less than 65 millimeters, 65 milliseconds. And deceleration time of pulmonary venous diastolic velocity less than 220 milliseconds. And you mentioned about E by VP ratio. If it is greater than 1.4 in presence of atrial fibrillation, and septal E by E prime,
more than 30.
That also is indicative. These are some of the indirect evidence of diastolic.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that input. I was really surprised how this could be answered.
Because A wave, this thing is not there. A wave contribution is not there at all for left ventricular filling in these patients.
Post-operatively, many of the CABG patients, they go into atrial fibrillation. So this may be a very good point to discuss, because post-operative assessment of diastolic function is important to see what is the cause of hemodynamic instability in the ITU and all.
Next question, LA volume assessment used to decide if MR needs to be addressed in patients CAD with moderate ischemic MR.
Yes, sir. LA volume can be a parameter to decide about the ischemic MR operability or whether to address or not. But in the recent 2017, also in 2019 guidelines, the specific mention about LA volume is not done. It is basically based on the regurgitant fraction and the regurgitant volume and effective regurgitant orifice area combined with the 3D vena contracta area. So,
And so the next question is LV systolic function. MAPSE is good, is it?
MAPSE doesn't hold as true as TAPSE for the right ventricular function, sir. MAPSE can be one of the measure, but not very very good method of assessment of the LV function.
Okay. Will pulmonary
Mitroseptal separation MSS that can be a better choice than the MAPSE.
Can we use pulmonary venous waveform after mitral valve replacement for diastolic assessment?
Yes, we can use a pulmonary venous Doppler, but because mitral valve replacement has there are washer jets which may hamper the reading. So I don't know whether it is really accurate to measure the post-operative diastolic function, but it can be one of the method.
No, washing jets are small jets which will not interfere with pulmonary venous.
Then it can become a good method, sir.
Will TDI be good for patient with AF?
Sir, in the guidelines there is E by E prime mentioned. So lateral.
Yeah, E by E prime can be used. There's no problem there.
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah. But E by A ratio of this E prime by A prime ratio will not be available.
No, it will not be available.
Yes.
Can I add some point, Doctor?
Yes.
See, there is L wave. Abhijit, you are aware of this L wave? L wave.
L wave in what, ma'am?
In either mitral forward mitral diastolic flow profile or even in TDI. Okay, you see one small bump between E and A or E prime and A prime.
Yeah.
And that is a sign of raised LAP.
Okay.
But it can be observed normally in bradycardia. In bradycardia, if you find L wave, it is normal. I think you are pointing to.
Yeah. I just pointed.
Yes. So I think that is the patient with L wave. I don't know.
It will be here.
It's a quick method to know whether or during surgery, if you find there is no L wave, and if you find L wave after some time, you are sure that there is increase in LAP due to either your fluid or any other thing. One should tackle that situation.
Yeah, I think we have finished all the questions in the chat box. Dr. Manjunath, can you do the final comments?
Oh, it was a very good presentation. Thank you, Abhijit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You put a lot of effort to get into this.
It's all your teaching, sir. All people are there.
Anyway, thank you very much, Abhijit.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Please join us on 26th. 26th, and happy Christmas. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you, sir.
Same to you, sir.
26th, we'll meet again for another TE session.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Everybody who participated, Dr. Sanjeevani, Abhijit, Manjunath, Rajiv, and others. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Good day, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all attendees. Thank you, speakers. Next Sunday, we will be having another class. Updated schedule will be communicated over the WhatsApp group. Thank you. Happy Sunday to you all.